Did those conversations happen? Did those Simon Cowell conversations happen? Do you remember any conversations?
No,
him specifically?
I think it didn't. It wasn't necessarily with him and the high people. It was just because the music industry is full of gays, like literally everywhere. But it was like you said, it's the men in suits, the higher level, the men that are the people that have been in Sony for 40 years. My head of Sony, he was an American guy in his late 50s who would have no relation whatsoever to me being a young gay guy in England. Couldn't be farther apart. And it was him that said that. He was like, right, I didn't know this was a thing before. We've always just let our gay artists sing songs and, do you know what I mean, sing songs as they are. And I said, but actually, you're standing for something. Do you want to change it? And I was like, no, thank you. The fact that you have thought about that is enough.
And I think, just touching on what you said, if I come back to you, Joy, experience from how I identify, I'm really comfortable with identifying as gay, because I think that word kind of describes the way I feel about myself really well. But from my job at Stonewall and from work at, with Are You Coming Out, increasingly I think that people aren't necessarily comfortable with using, those rigid labels of sexuality and gender identity. And very recently, your good friend, George, came out in a way where he didn't use any labels. And I don't know if anyone saw how that was reported very quickly, as news can be reported these days. I think it was Newsbeat actually. I remember reading the Newsbeat article. And it was, George comes out and says he doesn't want to use any labels. And then they use the word bisexual, which to me was kind of like, okay, you don't need an LGBT person sitting behind a desk writing this to know that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to talking about labels in a bit, but I also want to ask if it's okay about George, about first of all, how he's dealing with the attention around his coming out, how you've been supporting him. Full stop. That's the end of my sentence.
No, I think it was a huge thing for him. I can't imagine what he must have felt, because as far as I know, when we did X Factor, I was 22 and I've been out since I was 14. George was 18, he was a kid. And George at that point, I think, was very much asexual. He hadn't even come into knowing who he fancied. So to have to do this to find out who he was in himself on a global scale, in front of the media and stuff like that, I can't imagine going through what I went through at 14, what he's doing now. So I think he's so brave, and I think he's so strong to have been able to, if he's been dealing with these feelings for so many years, and the way he did it, I totally respect, and I think the no labels thing for him is amazing, and he's doing really well. He's been overwhelmed with the support, and I mean it's hard as well because he isn't not coming out as gay or bi, whatever he's coming out as, because already having a gay member in the band as well. I think there's that extra pressure that when he wanted to come out, I'd come out and got an amazing experience, but that's kind of your thing. Where do I fit in? Do I just become the other one that likes boys, or do you know what I mean? I think it was such a hard thing for him to do. So
boy bands are only allowed one.
I know, that was the rule. That's what I signed up for. So now I need to go and find. I need to go back to show. But yeah, it's he's doing really well, and the support's been amazing. And there has been a lot of arseholes in the media, certain reporters that I shan't mention, that decide to think it's okay to out people, and it pisses me off because I'm all for coming out if you're in a position of power, but whatever means power is. If you've got an influence, I think you should raise awareness. What I don't like is when the media reporters and journalists bait people and they're setting people up to see them fail. And gay reporters as well. Let me add, this person is a gay man, goading for George's sexuality for the last 6 months. We've been dealing this with behind the scenes, going for it, trying to get every piece of information, any guy he's talked to, any girl he's talked to, any text he's ever sent. You're a gay man, that's a disgrace. You're making it like it's a witch hunt, like it's something wrong, like it should be plastered all over. My coming out was page 36 of The Sun, that big. That's how I wanted it. It wasn't news, it shouldn't be news. I'm gay, this is new. It should be, like you said, humanised, normalised. And for reporters and the media to still be doing that now, I think is a disgrace.
Okay. Throughout
My career, branching off from either being a singer, I found it difficult to get into TV or into radio for being a gay male still.
Okay.
Just because you've got people that necessarily are like one of my best friends, Rylan, who is so out there, amazing, and do you know what I mean, really like owns it. But me, I think that people always feel I kind of fit in the middle of you're a boy band but you're gay, but I'm not overly camp. I can be, I'm as camp as Christmas when I want to be, but I haven't got like a scale, and I found it hard that because I speak so open honestly when I've been for radio tests or screen tests and stuff, I've got no problem saying about what guy I fancy if it's a hot topic or something like that, and that has actually been my downfall in a lot of going for moving forward opportunities in my career, and I think amazing that BBC don't make those barriers.
So like sorry to interrupt, but Gribby's on the breakfast show, and most mornings he'll talk about the guys he likes, and he's on a huge show, the biggest show we have, lots of younger people listening, children listening, and yeah, he's able to do that. So I feel really bad for you, Jaymi.
It's important.
Yeah,
it's really important, and I think as much as we're talking about our industry and what we do, I think that's what's important to say to anyone else in whatever industry. Fight for it to be fun.
Yeah.
Fight for it to be okay. No one's gonna let it be okay if you just keep your mouth shut. So fight for your right.
Okay, do you think there's ever a time when you shouldn't be out, where you should?
maybe if you're.
What would that advice be? Sure, I'll come to you first.
Coming out, if it's a positive, which was amazing. If it's a negative experience coming out, that's only, imagine our lifespan, that much of negativity. Once that's gone and you're over that, you have got the rest of your life to be happy, and there's nothing better than being fully content and proud of who you are as a person, what you stand for. So I encourage, the younger the better. We need to get it in schools, we need to teach kids from primary schools that being gay is normal, so that if there's an 8-year-old, like I was at 8, I cried when I came home from a show because I fancied the male lead. I was 8 years old, I didn't know I fancied him, but if I'd have been taught well, I could have from 8 years old been transitioned into being normalised and lived all of these years happily like I have. So it's about, if it's a little bit of hurt for a lifetime of happiness.
It's a really good quote.
Yeah.